guys, welcome back to Who, What, Where, a true crime podcast. We're your hosts, Caitlin,
Hannah,
and Abigail.
If you've never listened before, just know this is a very chatty girls' night sleepover type podcast. We will speculate and theorize a lot, so if that's not your jam, we totally understand. But if it is, you can tune in every Monday for a full-length episode, and then come back every Friday for a Freaky Fast Friday episode, where we give you the rundown on a case, sometimes unsolved, always freaky, in 30 minutes or less. I'm gonna just edit it tomorrow while I'm watching the Super Bowl, I think.
Okay. Oh, shit, that's tomorrow. What time?
All right, everybody.
3:30.
Oh, I was gonna say 2. I don't know.
I work until 6, so.
Is it the Kansas City Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Is that who it is?
Yeah.
Okay, so honestly though, just as like last note, and then we can really start. The fact that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers made it to the Super Bowl is just confirmation that Tom Brady, no matter what fucking team, and I know
the sun shines out of his ass. Yeah,
it pisses me off.
It makes me mad too,
as much as it pisses you off for me to even fucking say it. But it grinds my gears so bad. But I'm like, it's true. He really just proved to everybody this season that no matter what team he's on, that'll go to the end. I don't know. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to talk about the disappearance of Maura Murray. I don't know if you guys have heard about this case. It's kind of a crazy one. It's relatively older, I guess you could say. It's from the early 2000s, but it's a cold case. So no one knows where she is, and she basically disappeared without a trace. There were a lot of kind of events leading up to her disappearance that some people would argue was her kind of leaving a little bit of kind of like a trail for people to follow. But then the actual disappearance itself, she basically vanished out of thin air. So on December 9th, why did I say December? I don't know. It says February. What the fuck? Okay. On February 9th, 2004, and I don't know how I do this, but almost every time we do an episode, it is February 6th when we film this, and it'll be, I think, February 8th when this podcast goes up. So like a day before. And it's like the same thing with the Lizzie Borden case, where literally coincidentally that week her house went up for sale. And I'm like, I don't know how I do this, guys. It just comes to me. I don't know. Anyway, on February 9th, 2004, Maura Murray, a 21-year-old nursing student.
Oh my gosh, she's so young. I just realized that.
I literally don't know. I'm sorry. I'm not laughing about Maura because I'm really sad about her case, but I literally cannot stop mispronouncing things. It's like words just come in and just go out the other way. Weird. Okay. A 21-year-old nursing student disappeared after a minor car crash near Woodsville, New Hampshire. We'll talk about the details leading up to her disappearance, the investigation, and then we'll talk about a few theories of what happened to her and why such a seemingly normal young woman disappeared without a trace at all. Maura was born in Hanson, Massachusetts, to parents Fred and Lori. Maura's parents divorced when she was young, and she had lived primarily with her mother her entire life, which is actually kind of an interesting fact when you come to some information later. She was a star athlete in high school on the track team, and she went on to be accepted into the United States Military Academy at West Point. So that's pretty cool.
Dude, that's awesome. She was that's a big deal.
A pretty badass woman, I would say. She studied chemical engineering for 3 semesters, and then she transferred to the University of Massachusetts Amherst, which is where she started studying nursing. So she is a smart, working on getting her education young woman, and frankly what happens to her is like really horrible, but we don't even know
she was 21 when she went missing.
Yeah.
Dude, and that's younger than both you and I, Hannah.
Which is weird because I think the first time I ever heard about this case, I was much younger. And, you know, when we started this podcast, I was thinking about what can we talk about other than like murder mystery type? And I was like, disappearance cases are like some of the most kind of devastating cases for some reason. Like the
closure.
Yeah, the fact that you don't know, I think is the hard part. So In November 2003, Maura used a stolen credit card to order food from a few restaurants, including one in Hadley, Massachusetts. So like around kind of where she lived and was going to school. The charge was continued into December, and it was eventually dismissed after 3 months of good behavior. I kind of just noted that because I think that's odd that such a bright and like well-performing student had kind of this minor run-in with the law. I don't know. It is the only kind of issue she had with the law for a little while. On February 5th, 2004. So this is now we're up to like right before the disappearance happened, because it was on February 9th that she disappeared. So on February 5th, Maura speaks to her older sister Kathleen while working at her campus security job. Her older sister Kathleen was having a variety of relationship issues, which I'll talk about later. The kind of contents of the phone call didn't come out until a couple years later because of how sensitive the topic was, I guess, of the conversation. Around 10:30 p.m., her supervisor arrived at Maura's desk to find her hysterically crying, and then she became unresponsive and was just like completely zoned out. She didn't like pass out or anything, but she had like been sobbing, and then all of a sudden she just had like a blank face and was completely zoned out. Her supervisor eventually escorted her back to her dorm room, which was around 1:20 a.m. So I know this seems like weirdly late, but she was working at a campus security job, so that'd be kind of the normal time to be out and doing security things, I guess.
Wait, was there a reason she didn't go to West Point?
Not that I found. She only went there for 3 semesters, I think it was. Yeah. And so I wonder if it was just like too much for her, too difficult, too intense. Yeah. Or didn't just like, she was studying chemical engineering at the time too, so maybe it just didn't align with what she wanted to do. I'm not 100%
Yeah, well, nursing
sure.
is quite a bit different.
Yeah. When the supervisor asked what was wrong, Maura responded with 2 words. She just said, "My sister." The supervisor had no idea what she was talking about, and no one did until October 2017, when Kathleen admitted to being an alcoholic and said on that night she had been discharged from rehab and her fiance took her to a liquor store, which in parentheses I have WTF, because literally why the like
what an enabler.
No wonder Maura was so kind of distraught about that, because
that's a big deal.
Yeah, that's pretty messed up. And so it caused Kathleen to have kind of an emotional breakdown, which also caused Maura to have, when your sister calls you in hysterics, like that would obviously make you be like, oh my God, what is going on? On February 7th, Maura's father, Fred, came to visit her in Amherst. They went car shopping that afternoon and eventually went out to dinner with a friend of Maura's. Maura dropped off her father at his motel and then borrowed his Toyota Corolla to return back to campus for a dorm party, which I understand we all got to get our party on, but why was she driving to a party? Because as you can probably imagine, she was probably going to end up drinking. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that kind of comes into play here in a minute. By 2:30 a.m. on Sunday, February 8th, she was leaving the party. Not that weird. That time is pretty, like, I don't know, on par with the college party. And she was en route to her father's motel sometime around 3:30 a.m., which I thought this was a little bit odd, because why would her father be staying so far away that it would take her over like an hour from when she left the party to when she was in this accident? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Like so she must have gone somewhere else in between, you think?
Yeah. She left the party at 2:30 a.m. and then around 3:30 a.m. she struck a guardrail, causing significant damage to her father's car. So the police came, obviously, and there was no documentation of sobriety tests being conducted, which I think is also very strange. Like, I don't know how she got out of that, because I feel like she was probably intoxicated, I would imagine. and she was driven to the motel and stayed in his room until the next morning. So the police officer, whoever came and responded to the scene, the car was so messed up, it was like totaled. So she had to be driven back to the motel. Around 5 a.m., there was a cell phone call from Maura to her boyfriend from her father's phone. Where is her phone? Question mark. That's what I said. It's like, why doesn't she have her phone with her? Why isn't she calling her own boyfriend on her own phone instead of on her
own
phone?
Boyfriend?
Well, her boyfriend on her own phone.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You couldn't find what happened to her phone?
Well, and I don't know if maybe like her phone was just dead. That's totally possible. But I just thought that was an interesting thing to note, that she called on her father's phone.
Mm-hmm.
The contents and participants of this call remain unknown to this day. So as far as I know, like her boyfriend, everything that I saw, they just mentioned him as her boyfriend, not as like a real name. So.
Oh, really?
His name was Billy Roush. The damage to Fred's car was covered by auto insurance, which is awesome. Good for Fred. And he rented a car and returned home to Connecticut that next day. At 11:30 on Sunday night, which is a little bit late to be calling, but whatever, he called his daughter and they agreed to talk sometime again on Monday to discuss the accident forms that she was going to have to fill out so that they could file an insurance claim. So now we're led. I can't do this. We are up into the day of the disappearance. So around midnight on February 9th, Maura searched MapQuest, and in parentheses I have LOL throwback. Y'all remember MapQuest when you would like go and Google like where you're gonna go and fucking print that shit out?
You'd like print it out, yeah.
And this is where she looked up directions to the Berkshires and Burlington, Vermont. Around 1 p.m., Maura emailed her boyfriend and said, "I love you more, stud. I got your messages, but honestly, I didn't feel like talking to much of anyone. I promise to call you today, though. Love you, Maura."
She signed her text message?
It was an email.
Oh.
And she's just being business professional. It's okay.
She's being thorough. I love
We're
it.
good,
Okay.
We're good. Didn't even call him by his name. She just said stud, but then said, "Love you, comma, Maura." Anyway. Sometime after that, she called a property management company inquiring about renting a condo at the same Bartlett, New Hampshire condo where her family had vacationed in the past. We love to see it. We love to see a bougie vacation. The call only lasted 3 minutes and the owner did not rent the condo to Maura. I mean, fair point. She's a 21-year-old woman. I don't know if she was trying to rent it long term or if she was just trying to rent it for like a quick vacation. Honestly, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later when we kind of discuss the theories, but to me, it just sounded like she was, and speaking from someone who was in her position, not her exact position, obviously, but in a similar position just less than a year ago, like in college, struggling emotionally, mentally, you know, like just like having a tough time. College is hard, and like supporting yourself and trying to keep up with your relationships and working and everything, that's difficult. And so it just seemed like she wanted to get away and things just went bad, basically, is what it seems like to myself. But we'll talk about that more later, like I said. Around 1:13 p.m., she called a fellow nursing student, and the contents of this call are unknown. But it just shows, again, that like either she was thinking this through so far out that she was like trying to make sure she had like alibis and like was talking to people, or this was just a normal day. And like I said, she was just trying to get away for a little bit for the weekend or whatever. And things just went wrong. At 1:24, she emailed her work supervisor and said that she would be out of town for a week due to a death in the family. This is false. There was no death in the family. But again, it's just like this girl just needed some time away, I think.
Yeah, college is rough.
Yeah. She said
it is kind of suspicious though that she's like gearing up so that everybody knows she's going to be gone. It's like she intended on coming back.
Exactly. That's my point. I don't know if I got that clearly across before, but that's kind of my point. Is it was like she was just telling everyone, even though she wasn't explicitly saying to everybody, "Hey, I'm going to be gone. I just need a weekend away." But
she was telling people that she was going to be gone. Like it wasn't really a secret. No one knew where she was going, but it wasn't a secret that she was going to be gone is kind of what I think.
Yeah.
She said that she would contact the supervisor when she had returned and she was ready to come back to work and stuff. At 2:05, Maura called a number which provided information about booking hotels in Stowe, Vermont. So not that weird, but again, kind of like blast from the past, early 2000s, where you had to call a phone number about booking a hotel instead of just like going on hotels.com. But anyway, just a side note there. Trying to keep it light and fresh. It's kind of, it gets more depressing as we go on. At 2:18, she called her boyfriend and left a voicemail promising that they'd talk later. The message was around 1 minute. So similar to probably what she said in her email where she was like, hey, sorry, we didn't chat today. We'll talk later. In her car, which was later found, Maura had packed clothing, toiletries, college textbooks, and her birth control. So again, further proving the point, I think that she was just going away for the weekend. She had clothes, she had toiletries, she had her textbooks for studying. I mean, she wasn't like this.
She definitely intended on coming back. Yeah.
She wasn't like a delinquent that was just like trying to run away and like escape her responsibilities. She just needed like time away is what it seems like. When they later searched her room, most of her stuff had been packed into boxes and the art had been removed from the walls. So that's a little odd. That's kind of a weird little turn. That's sort of where my whole, she just needed to get away for a week theory kind of.
Well, and like what could explain that, I guess, is the, like, what is like another possible explanation for that? Like,
I mean, so the other,
she was going to redecorate when she got back?
Maybe, or my thought is maybe, she was living in the dorms and she had a boyfriend. So maybe she wanted to move out and live with her boyfriend. I don't know. Like maybe she was planning on moving out and she hadn't told like her parents or anybody because she thought they would be like disappointed. I don't know. It's unsure exactly when she had packed all of these boxes and packed everything away, but it was probably sometime between Sunday night and Monday morning. So in the middle of the night, basically.
How do they know that?
Because like of the time that she had talked to people and when she when she had left, like between those two time periods. On top of the boxes was a printed email to Maura's boyfriend, which indicated trouble in the relationship. So that's kind of weird too. On the box, there was a printed email saying she was going to send to her boyfriend that was saying that there was some sort of trouble in the relationship.
Why did she print it?
I don't know.
So that sounds like, I don't know if there's like a term for it, but she's like trying to create evidence. Like she knows people would be looking for evidence, you know?
Yeah.
That sounds like forceful. And
I'm almost wondering if like, it's almost like she had this really elaborate plan to like run away with her boyfriend forever. And she's like, oh, no one will guess that we ran away together if I put this email here. I don't know. That's kind of it again, like there is a lot of information and things that have been dug up around this case. And there's still no answer really. At 3:30 p.m. she drove off campus in her 1996 Saturn sedan. The classes that day had been canceled due to a snowstorm. So it was snowy, middle of a New England winter, basically. At 3:40, Maura withdrew $280 from an ATM. Based on the CCTV footage that they found, she was alone at the time, so she was not with anybody. There was no one in the car or nothing like that. At a nearby liquor store, she then purchased about $40 worth of alcohol. She bought some Baileys, Kahlua, vodka, and boxed wine, and she was still alone at this time. So kind of just a basic, someone like any 21-year college female would buy those items, I feel like. So that's not that weird, honestly, to me.
Pretty normal if you ask me.
She's going on a weekend trip. She wants some booze. That's okay. She also picked up the accident report forms she needed to have a talk with her dad about. So again, very much so, in my opinion, saying she's getting all her stuff in order. Like she's not planning to run away and never come back. It's not like she's like abandoning her responsibilities.
Maura left Amherst around 4 p.m. via I-91 North. The last recorded use of her cell phone was at 4:37 p.m. that day when she called to check her voicemail. She had not informed anyone of her destination, and it's possible that she haven't even chosen a destination at that point. And again, kind of like what we were saying before, like she kind of made it clear that she was leaving. She didn't really hide that, but she didn't really tell anybody where she was going. So, and again, it's possible that she didn't even know where she was going. She just needed to get away for a little bit. At 7:27 p.m., there was a report of a car accident. In Woodsville, New Hampshire, a resident reported hearing a loud thump outside of her house. Through the window, she could see a car up against the snowbank along Route 112. So again, it was snowing. It looked like a car had like hit the snowbank and kind of gone up it, on the side of the road. The car was pointed west on the eastbound side of the road. So she had kind of swerved off to the side. Like she was going this way and she like hit that side. The resident called the Grafton County Police Department at 7:27 p.m. So like right when she saw it. Based on the call she made, she claimed to have seen a man inside the car smoking a cigarette. Okay, keep that in mind. That's a little weird. This is Maura's car, by the way. If I didn't make that
Well, and they're assuming she was in it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
However, she later contradicted herself and said she had not seen a man with a cigarette, even though she told them that she did. But rather, she had seen a red glowing light, possibly from a cell phone. And like we mentioned, or like I just mentioned a little bit ago, the last recorded use of Maura's cell phone was at 4:37 p.m. So was it a cell phone? Was it a man with a cigarette? Not even this lady knows. And apparently she saw it. Anyway, another neighbor saw the car as well as someone walking around the vehicle. So it, like when they looked out of their window, this was kind of a desolate area. But when she looked out the window, she could see somebody walking around the vehicle. But that's not that weird. If you got in a car accident, you're trying to kind of like assess the damage. Can I still drive? How bad is it? Can I get it off of here? Blah, blah, blah. There was also a third neighbor that pulled up by the vehicle. The third neighbor noticed the woman was not bleeding or visibly injured, but she pleaded to not call the cops. So she said that she had already called AAA. Again, there was no cell reception. We know she hadn't used her cell phone because last recorded use was around 3:00. So the neighbor knew that she was lying, and then they proceeded to go home and call the police. The theory for why she didn't want to call the cops is probably, number one, she had probably been drinking. We kind of later figure, once I talk about what was found in the car, we'll kind of confirm that, I guess you could say. And also she had just gotten in that car accident in her dad's car, and so she probably didn't want like another accident on the record, like very
definitely. Yeah.
The third neighbor, by the time he had gone inside and was calling the police at 7:43, he was unable to see Maura's car anymore. So he was just by her talking to her, and now he couldn't see the car. But he saw multiple cars pass where the car was on the road before the police arrived. So this is where it kind of opens up the possibility that someone picked her up, whether that was someone she knew and it was like a wanted something, or whether or not it was a random person and there was foul play involved. That's kind of open to interpretation. A witness claimed that she was driving home from work and saw a police SUV parked face to face with Maura's car, but she pulled over briefly and did not see anyone inside or outside of the cars and decided to continue home. And she claimed this happened at 7:37, but this contradicts the official police report, which says that the police did not arrive to the scene until 7:46. So there's a lot of, first of all, there was a lot of people driving on this road at the time. So there was a lot of opportunity for evidence to get mishandled, for people to be like, oh, I saw this, and then someone say, oh, I saw this, and then be completely different statements.
Well, because everybody wants to like have a story when they're asked, like everybody wants to be like, oh yeah, I saw this very specific thing that there's no way my brain would have captured that memory at that time. Exactly. But they're like, oh yeah, I definitely remember it. Like,
Yeah. At 7:46 was when the police arrived at the scene, and at that point, no one was inside or outside of the car. The car was inoperable. The car had hit a tree on the driver's side of the vehicle, and both airbags had deployed. There was a crack in the windshield, and the car was locked. So it was like Maura got out of the car and locked the car, and then essentially disappeared without literally any trace.
That's so weird. The car was locked?
Yeah. So now let's talk about the weird collection of items that were inside of the vehicle. So
Okay.
I'll preface this by saying some of the items are not that
I think
weird.
it's funny that Caitlin said okay. Like you did not need to.
or like you had an option.
Like, okay.
Like you could tell
I'm
me
trying to be
no.
an active participant.
I'm really tired, so I am not doing a great job. I'm trying, guys. I'm trying.
And I'll preface this by saying a lot of the items are not that weird, I guess, for like a 21-year-old girl and knowing what she had purchased earlier in the day. But then there are like a few things that are a little bit odd. There were red stains everywhere in the car. And I know what you say immediately. Oh my God, it's blood. No, it's not.
Oh my God, it's blood.
It was wine, which we know our girl got a
Oh no,
box of
she was
wine,
drinking
okay?
while she was driving?
Yeah.
Oh
There
my
was
gosh.
an empty beer bottle. There was a damaged box of wine. So she had been drinking that and throwing it around. I don't know why it was damaged, other than the fact that maybe they meant it had been opened. I don't know. A AAA card.
Well, maybe that's why it was everywhere. Maybe she didn't drink it.
Yeah,
It was just broken.
But what were you doing that like it was flying around everywhere and spilling everywhere? Anyway, a AAA card that was issued to Maura, accident report forms, which were blank. So those were the same ones that she had picked up earlier in the day that she needed to fill out with her dad. Gloves, CD.
The other car.
Yeah, the other car she
Jesus.
crashed.
Which, this is like 2 days, right? Separating
Yes,
the two
7th to
accidents?
the 9th,
Okay.
Yeah. Gloves,
So
CD.
honestly, when you started talking about the one with her dad's car, that's when I thought that was gonna be the
Yeah, I know.
the accident that she disappeared after.
No,
Okay,
she just
sorry to
had
interrupt.
she just had a really bad couple of days, honestly.
Oh, poor girl.
Which been there, man.
Yeah.
Haven't we
Gloves.
all?
So
Had a
then-
bad couple of years.
Yeah. Then there were gloves, CDs, makeup and jewelry, driving directions to Burlington, Vermont, which we already knew she was getting. Maura's favorite stuffed animal. Interesting. And the book, Not Without Peril, which was a book about mountain climbing in the White Mountains, which are in that area. This is where another theory comes into play, and that's the theory that she was gonna go on like some kind of hiking expedition, and she
And not tell anybody?
yeah, and she made it and then just like died of exposure. That's I don't know, it's just like this really weird, the fact that there's this book about mountain climbing in her car in a very similar area to where she was planning on going, or where we can assume she was planning on going.
Well, yeah, she had driving directions to that place. Like,
Well,
I think that's a pretty easy assumption to make.
Well, she had driving directions to Burlington, Vermont, and
is that not?
Hold on. The White Mountains are a mountain range in New Hampshire. So
They're right next to each other.
yeah, they're all in like very similar area.
You can get from one corner to the other faster than one side of Washington to the other.
So and I guess the thought is about the whole book thing is like, is it just an entire coincidence that she had this book about mountain climbing right that was found in her car right before she went missing? Or is it completely like related? Like, was she trying to go mountain climbing in the White Mountains and then everything just went really bad? I don't know. But then, you know, it brings up the question, why did she call to rent a condo? Why did she, you know, buy a bunch of booze? I mean, it's just there's a bunch of other things that kind of come into play that kind of the idea that she was going mountain climbing.
The weird thing about like the calling to like get accommodations, like again, like a call leaves like a paper trail.
Yeah.
And it's like she's almost intentionally trying to leave some kind of paper trail, you know?
And you know, that kind of makes me think, just like off the top of my head, like maybe she was like running away from somebody or something. Like maybe there was something in her life that she was trying to run away from, and so she was like leaving a trace to say, this is where I'll be if you can't find me, like I should be here, kind of thing. I don't know. In the car, they did not find Maura's debit card, credit card, cell phone, and then they also didn't find some of the purchased bottles of liquor from earlier. So that's a little bit.
And they're
odd
assuming
too.
that she had him with her.
They're assuming, yeah. So she, they believe that she had a black backpack with her, and that is something that. So they basically believe that she had in this backpack her debit card, credit card, cell phone, and then some of the purchased bottles of liquor. Some people also think like, oh, like if she was trying to flee from the police, she would probably have picked up the bottles of liquor, especially if they had been drinking out of at all, to kind of hide that, you know, in an attempt to like save face if she was kind of running away from the police. Sometime around 8 to 9:30 p.m., a contractor returning home from work saw a young person about 4 to 5 miles east of where Maura's car was discovered. He said that the person was moving quickly down the road. They were wearing jeans, a dark coat, and a light-colored hooded jacket, or like hooded sweatshirt, a hoodie. He didn't report the incident, which I think is odd. I mean, how often do you see someone?
So he probably just thought it was like a hitchhiker.
So yeah, basically what he said is at the time he didn't think anything of it until he realized when he was like kind of checking his records, when everything came out that there was like this missing girl. He didn't really think anything of it. He was like, yeah, I didn't see anything. And then 3 months later, he was like, oh my gosh, that was the day that I saw that person walking down the side of the road.
That could be like another one of those things that the word for it escapes me, but it's like where people think they saw something, even though at the time there's no way that their brain would have like recorded that as significant.
I think I was talking about this in a different episode. It's like a phenomenon essentially where
it has some kind of name. I'm pretty
witnesses
sure.
remember facts wrong, like all the time,
or they'll just remember things, but they're not necessarily like
complete.
Yeah, because like their brain, if you're not focusing on something, you're not necessarily going to recall that many important details about it. Like,
yeah.
If you weren't looking at that person being like, oh, I bet that person is fleeing from a car accident, you wouldn't be like, oh, they, you know.
And that's how they catch like a lot of like criminals too, is if like you are telling some super detailed, you know, recall of what happened that day, then that's like a red flag that, oh my gosh, okay, they know way too much about this, or they know stuff that we don't even know. Like, why do they know that kind of thing?
Well, that's like why when cases are not closed yet, they just won't release certain things because they're like, oh, this thing, if somebody slips up and says that they know this thing, we can be like, we for sure didn't release this to the press, so we can like be positive that that's like that person had some kind of involvement because we didn't release that anywhere.
Yeah, so I mean, basically at the time he didn't think anything of it. It was maybe a hitchhiker, but then kind of playing like the other side, it's like, really, how many people did you see walking down this road late at night?
Was this a highway?
The snow. It was it wasn't a highway. I can't remember. It's like a what do they call it? Route 112.
So yeah, kind of.
So yeah, it was like a
state route.
And I don't know, I guess
I mean, how often had he driven past someone just walking down the side of the road that he didn't even like think anything of it? Maybe a lot, but maybe.
Well, he was a trucker, you said?
Contractor.
Was he a trucker?
He was a contractor returning home from work.
Oh, a contractor. I thought you said he was a trucker. Because I was like, a trucker, and that makes a lot of sense. But like just some random person in their truck.
Yeah.
Like I could see like you passing some. I don't know. I always like think about it when I see people walking. I don't drive on a lot of highways, but like the highway coming out of Cheney, like there's people walking on it sometimes.
Yeah. I don't know, but like if you saw that at like 8 or 9:30 p.m., it's dark and
in the dark,
outside,
in the snow.
It's cold.
Also,
they're walking really quickly. I don't know. It's like these are
There's-
all kind of things that I feel like I would know, but
so Caitlin, there's like not enough people walking along the highway you're talking about that I don't notice when there is. So
Yeah.
I definitely notice because
Yeah.
it's not normal.
No, that's like what I'm saying is like
Oh, okay, gotcha.
it doesn't happen that often, so you'd think like you would be like, that's kind of weird. Maybe I should like see if they're okay or
Especially in the
like report
snow.
it or especially in the
If
snow and like especially
if
if they
they were
weren't
a
she was wearing
woman,
jeans.
if they were a
Well,
woman,
if it was a woman,
which I mean, because I probably honestly wouldn't stop for a man because I'd be scared. But a woman walking through the snow, like she probably needs like gas or something like that, you know,
Uh-huh.
like just stopping to check on her and make sure she's okay, or if I can call somebody for her.
well, and that's usually the case. I feel like if somebody's walking on the road, it's like they're usually like going to the next exit to go to the gas station to get gas for their car.
Yeah.
Actually, I saw somebody doing that not that long ago on I-90. They were walking down the side of I-90.
I saw somebody doing that too.
I wonder if it was the same person.
Wait, but they were two men, so I didn't stop to help.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to die.
Honestly, I feel that.
the
Sorry.
Being nice gets you nowhere, you know? It gets you dead, pretty much.
Men.
Like offering help to random people, it sucks because like that's the society we live in, but like I don't know. If I'm risking being like injured or like I don't know. I especially for something like that little like gas, you know what I mean? Like I'm always like terrified that I'm going to like break down on the side of the highway and like be changing a tire or something and somebody's going to stop.
And I'm gonna get my ass back in my car.
Yeah, I'm going to be like, "Oh my god, please go away. I don't want your help." Please don't kill me.
Yeah, that's scary.
Anyway, sorry, Hannah. We've gone very sidetracked.
The police officer continued to drive around and search for Maura. By 8:49 p.m., the car had been towed, and they had like took it to a garage or whatever to like start examining it and stuff. At that garage, I guess you could call it, a rag believed to be part of Maura's roadside kit was stuffed into the muffler pipe.
Oh,
What? Wait, what does that mean?
No clue.
not good things.
Idea. I don't know if it was she was trying to be quiet.
No, that's bad. That hold on. It
I was gonna
means
say, I feel like that's intentional, like, because that would make the car overheat, I think.
okay, so when you stuff in, so a lot of people do it with a potato because it's like the right circumference, and if you put a potato or like a rag in a tailpipe, it leads to like a crack in the pipe, which leak fumes gradually into the car, and it'll stall.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It would like, I mean, it wouldn't overheat, like I said, but it would make it look like she had an excuse to be pulling over to the side of the road because her car, quote unquote, broke down.
Yeah, I don't think she did it. I think somebody else did.
Oh, you think?
Yeah. There would be no reason to put a rag in your own exhaust pipe.
See, and that's the thing. It's like
What are
This-
you trying to stop?
this is one of the many facts, notes, whatever you want to call it about the case, similar to like the printed out email on top of the boxes. Like, what does it mean? I have no idea, but it's like one of the
Yeah.
facts that, you know, because she ended up disappearing, everyone's like analyzing it, like hyper analyzing it almost. But it could just, I don't know, it could be just kind of a weird little fact. I don't know. But it's like, what does it mean? How is it connected? And no one really knows that.
Yeah, totally.
By 12 p.m. the next day, Maura was referred to as missing. So didn't take long for her to be like confirmed as a missing person. From February to June 2004, this is kind of the time frame where everything first started, where all the investigations and search parties and all that came out. This was like the first bout of it. A be on the lookout report was issued for Maura at 12:36 p.m. on February 10th. So shortly after, kind of like the day started on February 10th, and everybody was getting into, the work, and people were saying, oh yeah, Maura's missing, blah, 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 whatever. A voicemail was left for Fred at 3:20 p.m. saying that Maura's car had been found abandoned. He was told by the Haverhill Police Department that if Maura was not found safe by the following morning, they would start a search. Kind of annoying that they didn't start it like immediately, but
I think it's like it sucks because hindsight's 2020.
Well,
There's a
and
24-hour rule.
Yeah,
in a
and
lot
exactly,
of places.
and she was an adult. Again, it's possible that a lot of people at this time, and this is still like one of the major theories, is that she was just trying to avoid the police, and so she was just running away. And so
What was she running away from, though?
Because she got in a car accident and had been drinking and driving again.
Mm-hmm.
She technically didn't get caught for drinking and driving the first time, but it's kind of assumed that she was drinking and driving after that college party and got in an accident.
Wouldn't there be a record of her getting like pulled over?
She wasn't pulled over. She just got in a car accident.
Yeah. So she really didn't want anyone to call the police.
So
in both of her recent car accidents on February 7th in her dad's car and this one, police were called to the scene.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
so that makes way more sense then. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, you must have missed when I talked about that. That's okay.
I'm like dozing off a little bit.
But yes, so that is one of the major theories. Okay, so is that she was fleeing the police. Anyway.
And then just decided to never come back.
Well, I'll talk about that in a minute. I don't want to get into that right now. But on February 11th, Fred arrived in Haverhill at dawn, and by 8 a.m., so just a couple hours later, they began the search for Maura because obviously she hadn't been found. A dog tracked the scent from one of Maura's gloves 100 yards east from where the vehicle had been discovered. People began to believe she had not traveled on foot, but possibly by a car. So
which doesn't line up at all with that guy who was like, yeah, I like saw somebody walking down the road that might have been her.
Yeah, so this is kind of an interesting little tidbit. Basically,
I knew you were gonna say tidbit.
The dog tracked the scent from the glove 100 yards east, and then it like basically dropped off. So
she got in a car.
Like she got in a car.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of a thought, like, was it an unwanted advance? Like, did someone pick her up that she didn't want to pick her up? Was it someone that she somehow got a hold of? Was it an agreed upon meeting place? I have no clue. No one has any clue, really. And it's just like, again, it's one of these weird facts that it's been hyper analyzed because of the fact that she disappeared. But like, what is it mean? I don't know. No one knows. At 5 p.m., Maura's boyfriend and his parents arrived in Haverhill to where he could start like being questioned and help with the search and everything.
Because they always look at the boyfriend.
Yeah. By 7 p.m., they believed Maura had come to the woods to run away or commit suicide. That was kind of the police's thoughts at
initial
that point.
Belief. Yeah.
Yeah. Like very early on. Which, to be fair, given the facts as up to this point, like what they could have possibly known, it's not that far off, I would say. But again, it really felt like she left like this trail. Didn't seem like she was like gonna come somewhere to commit suicide. She was like keeping up with her responsibilities and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, and it doesn't there wasn't any like other signs really of suicidal thoughts, were there?
No, and she didn't have like any weapon in her car or gun, nothing.
I mean, it does seem like she like suddenly started drinking and driving though. Like it didn't seem like she was like having issues
have a
with
past with that or anything.
Hell, she had like been at West Point for 3 semesters where like I'm sure she was I mean, she didn't get kicked out. She left on her own fruition. So like it just definitely seems like something happened very suddenly. So I guess it could be like that she was depressed and she was like feeling suicidal. I guess technically that's possible. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the truth of the matter is, like, as much as we want to say, oh, I would have known if they were going to commit suicide, I would have known if they were depressed. The truth is a lot of times you don't know. It's especially like a strong young woman like Maura would, I assume, would hide that really well and hide it with
Yeah. Definitely.
kind of a fake smile on her face and getting her stuff done and still being
Well,
a
I
good
was gonna
student, being
say,
a good employee, all that.
all of that is like, it's, you can't even necessarily use like, oh, she was still like taking care of her life responsibilities, because like, you know, lots of people do that while they're internally struggling. So
Exactly. Yeah. Especially in college, and like, I mean, now I feel thankful now that at least mental health is a little bit more talked about. But in 2004,
a lot of schools, a lot of colleges have like mental health resources like at the college, which is,
now, but I mean, like,
I
early
don't know if they did back
2000s,
then. Yeah.
I
Or even
doubt
if
it.
they did, I think that they've always had.
Was it socially acceptable?
Yes. Right.
That's kind of the point I was making or trying to make, was,
Would she have sought treatment is the thing.
Well, and everybody
in
that's,
some sense nowadays it's kind of trendy to like keep up with your mental health and
And
kind of in tune with that sort of thing. So anyway, so at that point they believed that, and eventually they actually, at a press conference on February 12th, around 3 p.m., they said that they believed Maura was endangered and possibly suicidal, and they also believe that she was intoxicated at the crash site. So again, they technically don't know for sure because they didn't see her, but they're pretty sure that she had been drinking. There was like a beer bottle, wine everywhere. She took liquor bottles with her, blah, blah, blah. At some point, which we're unsure exactly of the time because Maura's boyfriend was traveling on an airplane, so he had turned his phone off when he was on the plane, obviously. So we're not sure exactly when this voicemail came in, but Maura's boyfriend received voicemail that sounded like Maura sobbing. The voicemail was traced to a calling card issued to the American Red Cross.
Weird. Wait. Well, what does that mean?
A calling card is like...
No. I know what a calling card is. I'm asking what that means to the story, I guess.
Exactly. Again, like the 12th point that I've brought up in this case, where it's
she doesn't have any connection to the Red Cross?
I mean, she went to West Point, then she was working as a campus security, and she was studying nursing, but that's it.
Well, she was studying nursing, so I mean, it could be.
I found a Reddit thing about it. Un momento.
I mean, honestly though, Caitlin, like, that's like kind of this whole case is there's all these like little tidbits, but we have no one knows what they mean because we don't know what happened to her.
Oh, so apparently the Red Cross thing is more of like a, they don't even know if it was Maura's voice.
Yeah, they don't.
It's possible it was like a wrong number.
He believed that it was Maura. That's what he said.
He said I'm certain that it was Maura.
Yeah.
Well, who else would be calling him crying?
Well, it could be a wrong
missing
number.
Girlfriend.
Yeah, but what are the chances
that
of
is such a
wrong
coincidence.
Number? That would be like such a crazy.
I have never once gotten a wrong number call of just somebody sobbing.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then they coincidentally went missing right after.
Fred, along with Maura's boyfriend, were on CNN American Morning, and the family eventually expanded their search into Vermont. So they went on the CNN American Morning special or whatever the heck it was. I don't really know exactly what. I don't think they still have American Morning. Seems very early 2000s-esque. And basically we're like, please help us find Maura. She's missing. She's still missing. She's possibly suicidal and endangered, blah, blah, blah. And then they eventually had expanded their search up into Vermont, which it's kind of weird that it took them this long because it was pretty clear that she was planning on going to Vermont based off of like the MapQuest and stuff that she had like downloaded and whatnot. So I don't know. 10 days after the disappearance, the New Hampshire Fish and Game conducted a second ground and air search where they used thermal imaging, tracking dogs, and cadaver dogs. So at this point, it was becoming like increasingly possible that she was dead. Maura's older sister then found during the search, found a pair of white women's underwear that were like all ripped up, that were lying in the snow on a secluded trail. So first of all, this is very alarming, like just right off the bat. But the underwear's DNA did not end up belonging to Maura. But kind of the weird part about this is, who did it belong to? Why are there just pairs of underwear like in the woods, all ripped up? I don't know, kind of weird.
Oh yeah, the ripped up part is weird.
But I guess it's a good thing that they didn't belong to Maura. By March 2nd, the family had checked out of their motel, and they were just completely exhausted by the search. At this point, it had been almost an entire month that they had been looking for her. But Fred continued to return to Haverhill every single weekend to search for his daughter. Again, this is that weird point that I mentioned, that after her parents got divorced, she lived with her mom, but it seemed like she had a really good relationship with her father. Like in her later life, like he came and helped her like go car shopping. He was coming back every single weekend to help search for her. Not to say that her mother wasn't, but I don't know. In March 2004, there was a disappearance of another girl named Brianna Maitland in Montgomery, Vermont, around 66 miles from Maura's disappearance site. Police stated no links between the cases. So they were in very close proximity, but there were no like really big
Like
similarities enough that you could link the two cases to say, oh, it's like a serial killer or something.
Well, and like 66 miles isn't particularly close, really, if you think about it. So
I mean, it's like if there was a disappearance on the other side of the United States, like in California, you wouldn't think anything of it. But because they were both like in Vermont, New Hampshire, like I feel like of all places, it's close enough that people that are just kind of grasping at straws would be like, oh, maybe there's a link there. I don't know. And then like the next kind of time frame is from like July 2004 to December 2005. And this is where some really weird shnikey comes out. Okay. On July 1st, a 1 mile radius search, which was the fourth search, but the first without snow on the ground, was conducted. So that's a big note to make, that there was no snow on the ground at this point. So, you know, if she had possibly died and somehow been buried underneath snow, they would find something at this point. Maura had been spotted with a black backpack, like I mentioned earlier, which was not found in her car. And this is what the police were after. This was like the big piece of evidence that they really thought that if they found this backpack, they would find Maura, or they would find at least like remains of Maura, to be quite honest.
Well, yeah, because at this point they don't have a body, so they can't even know for sure if she's dead. So
the demon coming out of me, I don't know. Anyway, okay, this is where it gets really weird. Like, hold on to your seats, guys, okay? A man gave Maura's father a rusty knife that belonged to the man's brother, who he thought had killed Maura.
Okay, this like random dude.
Okay, so at this point, Maura's father, I don't want to say public figure, but he was kind of a public figure in the area. He had been going on, you know, CNN. He had been at press conferences. Everyone knew who Fred Murray was. And this man came up with a rusty knife and said, "This belongs to my brother, and I think that he killed Maura." Okay. The man and his girlfriend had been acting strangely ever since the disappearance. After this knife incident, the man got rid of his Volvo. Could be a coincidence that he was just getting a new car. Yeah. Could be that he was transporting a body in the car. Don't know. Anyway, the family of both men later said that the man who gave Fred the knife, so the brother, had a drug problem and had possibly just wanted the reward money. Okay, but just wait. There's a little bit of something that comes in there that'll kind of come full circle, that I think that that there's gotta be something here, okay? On November 2005, a user named Tom Davies wrote on a message board called Not Without Peril. If you guys remember, the book that was found in her car was called Not Without Peril, and essentially like a website blog kind of thing was made that was dedicated to a discussion of Maura's disappearance and trying to find her. And this person, who I'm assuming used a fake name, which was Tom Davies, wrote that he claimed to have seen a black backpack behind a restroom at, I'm not even going to try to say it, Pemigewasset Overlook, which is around 30 miles east of Woodsville. Yeah.
I love how that's a really long word and you like just went for it. Go you.
So this was a big deal when this came out, that someone said that, or claimed that they had seen a black backpack only 30 miles. So 30 miles is a long ways, right? But it's possible that she had walked 30 miles. So it's totally possible that this was her backpack that was found.
In
Well,
that amount of time,
It's even more likely though that she had been driven the 30
or
miles.
hitchhiked, or yeah.
Because
Maybe.
30 miles or hitchhiked, and like it doesn't sound like she was dressed to be walking in the snow, especially
I'm
in
just thinking
New England snow. Like,
Yeah.
she would have been. She wouldn't have gotten very far in jeans and a jacket.
But
like,
I also get the vibe, regardless of this being her backpack or not, that she was driven somewhere.
Yeah. So the police never disclosed whether this backpack was taken in for testing. If I remember correctly, I didn't write it down in my notes because I kind of just like glazed over it. But if I remember correctly, when I was researching this, it said something along the lines of, the police said, we know about the backpack, but they refused to say if they had taken it for forensic testing. And to me, that's possibly because they have some information, like what we were talking about earlier, where they don't want to give the public, they don't want to give the public information that the public might use later to, like, I don't know. They want to have stuff that's basically a secret from the public,
so that they can have it confirmed by their suspects and stuff.
Yeah. In October of 2006, this is where shit hits the fan, is what I'll say.
Uh-oh.
In the closet of an A-frame house around 1 mile from the crash site, cadaver dogs went, quote unquote, bonkers, possibly identifying the presence of human remains.
So, and it's my understanding that this house was belonged to the guy that was like, hey, my brother.
The house had formerly been the residence of Knife Man, mentioned earlier.
The owner of the knife or the brother?
The owner of the knife.
Okay.
Yeah, like his brother owned it and the knife guy like was renting it from him, right?
Something like that. Yeah. So, boom.
Yeah,
I mean, like, this is
1,000% connected.
This is a huge. So basically, I mean, now we're kind of at the end where we're going to start talking about theories, and essentially, there are two theories. And I'll say this first, real quick, before we start talking about the theories. Fred, Maura's father, continues to say and promote his belief that he thinks Maura is dead. And he really believes that the cadaver dogs found her body in that A-frame cabin. There were a variety of like tests and searches, blah, 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 whatever, in that area. And basically they didn't find anything in the house. But I don't know. The fact that the cadaver dogs thought they found a body, but then they just never end up finding one, I feel like that still could mean that there was traces of a body, like a body had been there previously.
And yes. I did just see something that was like they took like carpet samples and I guess they found there was like wood chips in the house that had blood trace on them.
Mm-hmm.
Again, they didn't connect it to her, but
See, and that's the thing. It's like over and over again with this case, there's all this stuff. They're like, okay, this has to be, this missing puzzle piece that'll connect everything. And the truth is, and like the most like upsetting, but just like plain truth is, it's not. Like nothing has really, I mean, obviously that's why it's still unsolved, like connected anything. Like we have no idea. And the fact that they have not found her remains is still kind
weird.
of crazy to me. So
yeah.
I don't know. For
I
me,
mean-
it seems pretty cut and dry. Knife Man.
so there are a few theories. Knife Man is one of them. That's a pretty well-known theory. And again, that's what Fred, I almost said Fred's father. What Fred, Maura's father, believes is that those people have something to do with it. They have to. So, I mean, that's Abby's theory of choice, which it kind of is mine as well. The other one is that she ran away to avoid a DUI, possibly a second sort of like, I mean, she basically ran away from the police and got lost in the woods and died. Okay, and died from exposure because, like we said, she wasn't equipped to be out in the wilderness in the winter in New England.
What if she ran away from the police and got picked up hitchhiking by Knife Man and then got murdered?
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's possible. So it's like that's like a connection of the two, sort of.
Well, and I know that there's like this idea that maybe it was just like an opportunistic killer, like somebody was driving down the road and was like, "Oh,
yeah,
she's walking alone in the dark. Nobody would possibly see me."
That's
and I
what
know
I'm saying.
I did just see something that was like the Oxygen documentary. That's how they kind of concluded. They're like, most likely it was probably just somebody driving down the road that was like, oh, she's by herself, and they just, like an opportunity arose, and so.
I mean, essentially what I think is that she most likely ran away from the crash site to avoid the police. But then what happened to her after that was not her own decision, I guess is how I'll say that. So I think that it's highly likely that she was picked up by somebody who eventually killed her.
Right.
And that would explain why there's like not really any footprints and why the dogs could trace the glove up to a certain distance and then they couldn't find anything else, as if she had been picked up by a car. There's also this kind of other theory that's a little bit more like, I don't know if I want to say far-fetched, but because all of these are technically far-fetched because none of them we know to be true, but there's a theory that she possibly made it into Canada somehow without anybody recognizing her. And she went into hiding and she's still there to this day, living up there under a fake name or whatever. And this theory kind of goes along with the fact that she wanted to run away. And that it's kind of far-fetched, but it's also kind of not, because I think it's highly possible that she wanted to run away. She kind of had set everything up to make it look, I mean, if she wanted to run away and she wanted people to think that she wasn't going to run away and she was going to come back, she had pretty much perfectly set everything up to look that way. Overall, I guess you could say it's highly unlikely that they had searched so hard and for so long and found nothing, and it was still just kind of like this random, oh, she just wanted to run away. That's unlikely. Like the fact is she was probably murdered. In my opinion, I think she was probably murdered, and the reason why no one ever found anything was because somehow
her remains were eaten.
They were burned. Somehow whoever killed her did something right, I guess, in hiding evidence and hiding that. And like we were saying just a little bit ago too, like everything is so, like they just don't have any firm evidence. So even when this whole knife thing came about, but they couldn't connect anything like exactly, like they couldn't find literal human remains inside the house. It's a little bit too much to be a coincidence, but it's like the police can't just arrest people based off of, oh yeah, we think that you're probably related to this weird disappearance.
Well, and so I will say real quick, I think the more I think about it, the more I kind of think she committed suicide. And I'll tell you why. I like the whole like within the past month there was like a bunch of stuff going wrong in her life, and like it definitely seems like she was like kind of like at the end of her rope, kind of like.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's weird because you would think, oh, the fact that she told all of her teachers she was leaving, you would think that that would like cement this idea that that's not what she was doing. She was like, why would she go through all that trouble if she was just going to commit suicide? So like, but I don't know. I think like she just walked in, like she was driving and she like was intending on doing whatever, and she got in that car accident, and she, having an already fragile mental state, which I think she did, like that was like the tipping point for her, and she decided to just like walk into the woods and commit suicide. And maybe she brought all that liquor with her to like numb
courage.
herself. Yeah.
But
And
then
it definitely sounds like
my question
it definitely
is,
sounds like she was like
where's her
being very
body?
reckless. Yeah, I mean, but if she was walking into these fairly thick woods, and they're fairly thick from my understanding, I mean, lots of things could have happened, you know?
I feel like I'm like torn half and half between, okay, did she die in the woods, whether that was by suicide or by exposure, or she got eaten, blah, 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 whatever, or was she murdered? Like
I
either
agree.
way, the main question that's left is, where the hell's her remains? Where the hell is her body? Why has no one found that yet? Why have they been looking for years and years and years and no one found it?
So if she
And
died,
I think that's what everyone really thinks for the most part.
if she died in the woods, she, like, of whatever cause, which I don't think it was suicide, but say she died from exposure to the elements. I mean, it wasn't warm by any means. She, like, either would have decomposed or been eaten, but like
But
bones,
you would still find something. Exactly.
you'd still find some kind of bones or clothes or belongings. Like, her belongings, her backpack that she supposedly had with her would have been somewhere, which is why I am totally leaning towards murder.
Yeah.
So, and there also is like the much less, like, this is kind of like a far shot, but just from what I've read on Reddit during this podcast recording, some people think it's suspicious that the boyfriend, so first of all, the voicemail that he was like, oh yeah, she called me while I was in flight, and it was her like crying. It like he deleted it, like no one actually ever listened to it.
Oh, that's hearsay?
Well, no, it's him saying like, yeah, this is the call I
Sorry,
got.
I guess hearsay is not the right word. It's just like something he says.
And people are like, was he on his way home before he even knew that Maura was gone? Like, did he like have some kind of like involvement because he was already in the air before he possibly could have like been told that she was missing? Like, I think there's like a lot of inconsistencies with his story is like what people are saying. And because there's so much like secondhand information, people are like, he could very much be more involved than he's making it out to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah.
Well, so he was in the military. Bill Roush, he was a lieutenant. So he was living in Oklahoma when this happened. That's where he was flying from. But
I mean,
I don't know.
I feel like it's possible. I feel like it's possible that he's more involved than he's let on. But like, I still
Like
don't
maybe he
think,
knows
like,
that she ran away.
maybe,
Even
but
if it's
even
like that
then-
small
even
of
then, what is that gonna do? Like, what would that
Yeah.
have? I don't know, because I mean, I certainly don't think that the boyfriend had enough involvement to say that like he had like helped her kill herself or killed her or something. I don't think that's the case at all.
Yeah.
And even if he did have knowledge, even if she had been saying, "Oh, I'm going to run away. I hate my life, blah blah blah," like maybe he didn't do anything about it because she said this in the past. I don't know. Not
Mhm.
to like victim blame or anything like that, but like
Well, maybe he, I don't know. I guess it just seems weird that she was doing, because the whole like her running away thing also contributes to my theory that she was like having like a little bit of a mental breakdown. So I guess it's like whether or not you think she was having a mental breakdown in the direction of like suicidal thoughts, or if she was more thinking like, I just want a fresh start. I'm gonna just
see, and
move.
that's why that kind of
And she had packed up a bunch of stuff. So I wonder if she was packing and she went for a drive and she was going to come back and pick stuff up. Like maybe she wasn't
or maybe
like
she was
leaving
like
yet.
gonna go visit Burlington, Vermont and see if she liked the area and then she was gonna
Yeah.
move there.
Because
But
stuff was packed. That definitely like is good evidence for her just like thinking she was going to move. Like because she had packed stuff.
but what you said too about like maybe she just wanted to like get away and like no one asked her any questions. I feel like it's very possible that she did it, like that's why the whole theory of like, oh, maybe she fled to Canada and she's just been living there like under a false name is like even at all talked about theory, is because maybe she really just was tired of her life and wanted to not end her life but just move on, like go do some like just like escape
Yeah.
it, you know?
And I mean, if that is the case, as morbid as it sounds, she did a hell of a job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She did exactly, if that is the case, she did exactly what she set out to do.
Right.
Yeah. Like she abandoned the car. I mean, I guess she didn't really have any choice because it had like broken down, right? Because she like missed a turn, right? Like she because it was icy and she like slid. So I wonder if the car was like not drivable anymore, but she was like, I've already made up my mind that I'm leaving the country, and so she just hitchhiked the rest of the way. Which is
Yeah,
totally
so
possible. Like if you are brave enough, you can hitchhike just about anywhere.
So like I said a little bit earlier, I'm like halfway torn between someone killed her, probably knife man, or she died of exposure, whether that was by her personal choice, like as a way to like kill herself, or if that was on accident. I'm split in between, and either way, I'm still like, where's the body? Why have they not found anything? Why have they not found
It
at
is-
least, like bones?
Remains. It is weird that because they did so much searching right at the beginning, like there still would have been a decomposing body, which would have been way easier for cadaver dogs to find. Because like bones are harder to find, especially in a wooded area that's like a huge circumference. Like, but you're right. Like they should have initially found some remains. The only explanation would be murder and somebody like burned the body or dumped it.
Yeah.
Dumped it somewhere completely random. Like nowhere near where they would be thinking
And they
to
just
look.
can't find it. Yeah.
Well, because they only looked near where she disappeared. So,
Right.
because I'm looking at the map of like the searches that they did, and it's all just, I mean, it's surrounding like where she went missing, right?
Yeah.
So Caitlin, do you have you're still going with the suicide theory?
I almost want to lean towards that, and I don't know why, but like my gut is she was doing a lot of weird things before she went missing,
Like
which
erratic.
makes me think she was feeling suicidal. Maybe she didn't intend on committing suicide, but like I said, maybe like the car accident like triggered something, and she like right then and there was, because it's obviously like suicide isn't like a rational decision. It's a lot of times like people are
act erratically.
they kind of like suddenly do it,
Yeah.
or it'll seem really sudden even to people that know them super well. So,
Right.
and I mean, no father wants to admit that he thinks that his daughter killed herself, you know?
Yeah, I agree with that part too.
Yeah. Well, that's
Overall,
all.
just a sad case for sure.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
all we have on the Maura Murray case. Like I've said millions of times throughout this episode, it is one of the most troubling disappearance cases for the fact that there are all these pieces of information that you read and you're like, oh, that's gotta lead to something.
But
And
you
it
can
just
connect
doesn't.
them.
Well, and it's
Yeah.
like, this should mean something. If we had any other piece of information that was like related to this piece of information, we might have something, but we only have this, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. And we're coming up on 2021's, or it's and she disappeared in 2004. So what is that? 17 years that she's been gone,
Yes.
Yeah.
disappeared. So, I mean, it's one of those cases that I certainly hope that one day we find an answer to, but
I mean,
yeah.
random little tidbit really quick. She could have been like she could be being held prisoner. Like we've had cases where people are held prisoner for longer than that.
That would
Yeah.
explain no body.
And that would be really, imagine that would be crazy if like just randomly someone was like, I've had more this whole time. And
Well, also
Yeah.
think about it in the sense that the brother of the guy with the knife could have been like, yeah, my brother's acting weird. I think he killed somebody. And they smelled a different body. Yeah.
Oh, you
Okay,
think
sorry.
Rusty Knife Guy has her prisoner?
No, I think he could have smelled.
a different body. Rusty Knife Guy has killed others.
Yes.
Abby's
Oh, I
saying.
see what you're saying.
I mean, we would have. I think they would have found her if it was
In that
him.
case, it was like that. That's totally the opportunistic killer theory,
Right.
you know?
1000%. Yep. So
Anyways, let us know what you guys think about this case down below in the comments on our Instagram or our YouTube at Who What Where Podcast. As always, thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you / you'll hear from us in the next one. Bye, everybody.
bye guys.